Greetings, ladies and metal gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called The Most Beautiful Sound in the World, written by Barsum Israel. I looked over at her as she huddled in the ditch, pressing her body against the dirt sides as the ground exploded around us. Here we were, on some godforsaken rock in some godforsaken corner of a godforsaken universe. We thought that we were alone. We thought that we were special. The only sapient life in all of space. We were fools. I gripped my rifle tighter and crawled closer to her. The enemy was near. It would soon be over. She looked up and gave me a slight smile. God, she had a way to stop my heart like no other. Here we were, our position about to be overrun, and she still smiled at me. Putting my mouth close to her ear to be heard over the noise of the explosions around us, I yelled, "Stay down! I'm going to take a look." She nodded, wincing as dirt fell on us from a detonation that was much too close for comfort. Steadying myself, I popped up out of the trench, gun raised and sighted to where I thought the enemy would be. And there they were. Two of the bug-like insect creatures were approaching, their advance covered by the bombardment from their artillery, each carrying their glowing weapons that I knew all too well were deadly. But so was mine. It just didn't glow to give away my position at night. I squeezed off 3 rounds, aiming at the insect on my left, and was startled when my wife also let loose on the one on my right. It seemed she didn't stay down like I asked. Both aliens fell to the ground. Mine was writhing in pain while hers was stone dead. She was always a better shot than me. The bombardment intensified, dirt and stone falling on us as we huddled for safety in our hastily dug trench. There were 8 of us at the start. Now just Ellie and I remained. 4 farmers, 4 families scratching out a life on a rock far from home. Modern-day pioneers. It sounded romantic and adventurous. In reality, it was a hard life, filled with disappointment and struggle. And that was before they came, before we encountered the bugs. The day they appeared, their ships hovered over our settlement. We panicked, of course, and Michael ran off to send a message to Earth that we were about to make first contact, and that we were not alone after all. We waited to see what they would do, and we did not need to wait long. Out of the 4 ships, 3 seemed to be just transports of some kind, but the 4th had obvious weapons on the hull. That ship started to open fire on our settlement, destroying a building to nothing more than rubble, then moving on to the next. We had no recourse, nothing to fight back with, so we ran and hid. After all our buildings were destroyed, they sent the troops. A dozen well-armed insects started scouring the landscape, firing on us when they saw us. Jonathan and his wife Lucy tried to surrender. As soon as they showed themselves, however, the energy weapons the bugs carried literally tore them in half. After that, we just ran and hid more. We adopted a guerrilla warfare tactic, firing from hidden positions, killing a few bugs, and then we would run again. The war of attrition would not last. For every one of the bugs we killed, 2 more would land and start hunting us. One by one, I saw my friends, my neighbors die to those horrible weapons. And now, Ellie and I were cowering in a trench as the enemy approached and preparing to sell our lives as dearly as we could. Without notice, the bombardment ceased. I looked at Ellie, realizing that it was almost over, that the bugs were going to be scurrying across the pockmarked and bombshell-ridden landscape to end our lives, so they could start their own colony here. I was surprised to see Ellie with a ghost of a smile on her lips, her beautiful eyes looking far away at something I could not see. "Ellie!" I hissed, gripping my rifle tight. Her eyes regained their focus and looked at me as she said, "It was all worth it, Jacob. I love you." God, she always had a way to make my heart stop in my chest. God, I loved her. I could not even reply that I loved her to before she let out a yell, stood up, and started firing her rifle at the oncoming bugs. I could not leave her to it alone, so I followed suit, cycling my weapon at every insect-looking bastard trying to cross the field. The return fire was white-hot plasma flew by us, some coming so close it singed the hair off my arm, but we kept firing. I saw Ellie reach for another clip to reload a rifle, as I drew down on a bug scurrying at her to close the distance and end it. It was close, so very close to her. I pulled the trigger and heard a hollow click of the pin hitting an empty chamber. I was out of ammo. The bug reared back, aiming the glowing rifle it held at my beautiful wife's face. Time seemed to slow down. I saw Ellie, still smiling, look right at the bug above her head, a look of defiance and contempt on her face. God, how I loved her. God, how I wish I could protect her. And then the bug exploded. We were both covered in a spray of greenish ichor. I was stunned, staring at the small piece of bug that was all that was left of the creature that seconds ago was about to kill my wife. The other insects hesitated, looking around in confusion. Then another one exploded, and another. It was then that I heard the distant thud of large guns firing. Turning around, I saw 3 marine hover jets in the distance, closing in fast, their guns laying waste to the insects around us. The rush of joy, the rush of hope, it cannot be explained. It appeared that Michael's message got through, and Earth sent some backup just in case it was needed. And thank God they did. Missiles streaked overhead, impacting on the warship the bug sent, causing a cascade of explosions and crashing it to the ground. The hoverjets roared overhead of the ditch we were in, and I threw myself on Ellie to cover her body with my own. I could not risk anything happening to her. Not now. Not when we were so close to our salvation. Glancing up, I saw troop ships fly low to the ground, pouring out Marines and taking off again. The sound of human voices echoed in the air. The sound of weapons firing rang in the distance. It was the most beautiful sound in the world to me. And as I lay there in a ditch on my wife, I felt her arm snake around my neck and pull me closer as she kissed my cheek. I love you so much, she said. And as once again she made my heart skip a beat, I realized I was wrong before. This was the most beautiful sound in the world to me. End of story. Story number 2. Never double-cross someone who decapitates their enemies for fun. Written by Hail Satan. Axel was born in one of the many unincorporated fiefdoms in the Pleiades region. He was a wharf rat growing up, doing odd jobs at the local spaceport. When he was old enough, he signed aboard a long-haul freighter to get the hell out of there. When it was intercepted by deep space pirates, he chose to join the crew and thus began his long and bloody career as a pirate and mercenary. Once the Human Commonwealth Peacekeeper Alliance set his bounty to 4 million digital credits, he opted to exile himself and took his bloodthirsty ways to the outer edge far from human-held space, or territory subject to Galactic Alliance. In other words, a lawless no-man's land. This region was rife with criminal cartels and violent outlaws. He fit right in. Being a Class 10 sapien gave him a competitive edge when most of his fellow mercenaries were somewhere between Class 5 and Class 7. Most recently, he had been working for an up-and-coming cartel run by notorious Kalgato Jev. Kalgato Jev was a Renick, a race of Class 7 mammals, who resembled a very fat stout. Axel had risen up the ranks of the cartel from hired muscle to hitman to enforcer. The boss had tasked him with finding out why their main C-37 lab hadn't made any money in 2.5 dialysis cycles. He now stood in front of the Kalgato Jev in his office/dining room. So, they thought that they could go into business for themselves, Kalgato Jev asked. partial masticated food spilling from his mouth. "They sold directly to the dealers and kept the money," replied Axel. Jev laughed, slobber dripping down his jaw. "You take care of it?" Axel grinned. "They're dead. I mounted their heads on spikes outside the spaceport, just like you wanted." "Everyone should know better than to betray Jev the beheader." Jev gobbled down a chunk of foodstuffs. "So where is my money?" "It should be about 250,000 credits. "Oh, I have it." "Good, give it to me." "No." "What?" Jev almost choked on his dinner. "No, I think I'll keep it." "What?" Jev exclaimed again. "I'm going to keep it," Axel told him. "The gang were keen to give it up once I started peeling their skin, and after all my hard work, I reckon I deserve a big payday. Call it severance." "Severance? Severance?" Jev screamed. "I will give you severance. I will have your head." "What are you going to do?" Axel laughed. "I'm a human. We're from a Class 10 world. Your deadliest killers could be crushed by one of our children. You're not even a threat to me." With that, Axel turned and walked out. Golgotha Jev pulled out a kinetic pulse pistol and fired angrily at Axel's back. The pulses impacted ineffectually against Axel's tactical vest. The two burly bodyguards moved to intercept him, but reconsidered when they realized who they were up against. "You will not get away with this, human," Jev yelled after him. "You think that you are the worst killer I have? You haven't met my assassin yet, but you will. Do what? Double-cross Jev's the beheader." Axel smiled smugly to himself as he made his way out of Golgotha Jev's luxury apartment with the impotent minions casting dirty looks his way. Whatever Golgotha Jev had, he could handle it. He was an experienced mercenary with a kill count of 35 before he even encountered these Xenos with their fragile bodies and lackluster weapons. He was the biggest, baddest mother in the sector, and it'd take anti-vehicle weaponry to even slow him down. Still, it was worth taking precautions. He caught the next shuttle off-world, and once they arrived at their destination, he paid a smuggler to drop him at a seething shantytown in a territory controlled by a cartel rival to Golgotha Jev's. He was careful. He changed his appearance, wore body armor wherever he went, and made it clear that he was a kill-first, ask-questions-later kind of guy. The locals left him alone, and the cartel were happy to take his credits in exchange for privacy. This went well for 3 solar cycles. He lived a life of hedonism and paranoia, mixing moonshine and redneck hookers with weapon maintenance and security checks. Until one day, when he was getting back from his favorite bar, he noticed that the door to his den was ajar. Instantly alert, he ducked into the shadows and drew his sidearm, a custom triple-barreled las gun. He crept up on the door. The mag lock on the DNA scanner must have been hacked. He had added a manual key lock himself, but that too had been picked. Peeking through the doorway, the interior was unlit. His primary booby trap had been dismantled and the secondary booby trap was disengaged. A little bit of fear crept into Axel's mind. Xenos didn't do this. They didn't think like this. He entered, gun ready. The familiar space suddenly fraught with potential hostility. His calculating gaze swept the living space. All clear, nothing out of place. There was a dim light coming from his sleeping quarters. Stealthily, the big brute of a man moved in on the opening. As he reached the threshold, he beheld an unexpected sight. Laying on his bed was a female, a human female, a very attractive human female, a very nude, very attractive human female. At this point in the narrative, a writer would most likely use words like curvaceous, sensual, and probably pert a few times until the reader has to go and have a cold shower. So we'll dispense with that and simply accept that her appearance hit Axel in the libido like a sledgehammer. But he kept his wits about him. This was obviously a trap, and he was not going to be fooled. He pointed his gun at her. "Who are you?" he barked. She turned her sultry eyes towards him. "Oh, there you are," she murmured seductively. "Don't try that sexy crap on me," he snapped. "It won't work." His eyeline slipped down to her breasts before he caught himself. She laughed lightly. You've been a naughty boy, Axel. That's why Jev sent me to collect your head. Now it was Axel's turn to laugh. You're Jeb's assassin. What are you going to do? Feck me to death? Which you can't even touch me. Oh, I didn't say I was an assassin. A shadow moved behind Axel, and a razor-sharp blade ran across his throat, bisecting his carotid, his windpipe, and his jugular. Axel dropped his gun and tried desperately to hold in his lifeblood with his fingers. The woman got up off the bed. I'm the distraction. Axel slumped to the floor, gurgling, crimson blood spilling forth. A slim, black-clad figure stepped over the rapidly exsanguinating Axel and pulled a mask to reveal the delicate features of another female human. You've got this one, I got the last one, she said to her naked compatriot as she dug Axel's credit chip from his arm, using the same knife she had slit his throat with. The naked woman sighed and reached under the bed to retrieve a bag. When will people learn? She pulled an auto-serrator out of the bag and turned her attention to decapitating the recently deceased Axel. No one double-crosses Jeff the Beheader. End of story. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.